the narrative that individuals construct about their lives that provide them with a sense of personal identity. Events aren't inherently negative or positive. Everywhere we look, we have attributed meanings to things. We only know how to act with this water bottle because we've attributed the meaning of it being something you drink from. But you don't necessarily have to use it for that. We just interact with it like that because that's the meaning we've attributed to it. And it's just crazy because we could technically restructure what things mean to us and the stories we tell ourselves, and like the world would be so different. Like, hi guys, welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you're already subscribed. My name's Marin and I make psychology and philosophy inspired videos. I also like to document my pole dancing journey, so if you guys are interested in that, feel free to hit that subscribe button. In today's video, I want to do a video on, I guess it's, oops, I just moved my book. I guess it's this concept or idea that I picked up from as I was reading for my exam for family therapy or family dynamics. It's a course I'm taking right now in my spring courses, and like I've kind of heard this idea before. It's kind of the whole notion of the stories we tell ourselves and the impact that they have. But yeah, I have a few sections in this book that kind of inspired this video. I'm just gonna go off of what thoughts pop into my head. I didn't really structure this. Sometimes I feel like that's best. So I just want to start by this one sentence. It's just talking about the different types of selves, because with family therapy, before family therapy, people used to think that kind of like there was an autonomous self, that the self was kind of cut off from like other people. And so for family therapy, they found like the relational self, like the people, we are actually more of a relational self, that we are more like an interactive self, and like we're defined in terms of like the relationships that we have with people, not defined as an isolated entity. Anyways, that's not the topic of the video. But then there's this one self, and there is therapy based off of this self, and that is the narrative self, which is the idea that you are kind of the stories you tell yourself. And then like the narrative therapy stuff is basically like trying to reframe the stories you tell yourself and people within the family tell themselves about the family. That's a whole other topic. That's kind of like what the text was about. But I'm gonna read this passage, and I found this inspirational for some reason when I read it. It says, "It is the narrative that individuals construct about their lives that provides them with a sense of personal identity." Deep quote from my family therapy book. And then later on in the book, actually, it talks about, this is symbolic interactionism, so it's not the whole narrative approach, but I feel like it could relate to the narrative approach. And here it says, "Humans do not act towards things as they are, but based on the meaning they ascribe to these things." So basically based off of kind of like the stories that we tell ourselves about things and about ourselves is what determines how we act with things. So like, for example, this lipstick is technically, it's just like, it's a square, or like a, I don't know, like it's like is square when it's even. There's rectangle and there's square. I feel so stupid. Like, I've always mixed them up ever since I was a kid, because one is like the oblong one, and why am I in university? Do you guys have like weird things that you like don't know like by heart that you should know by heart? Because same. Rectangle and square. Square, I'm pretty sure, because SpongeBob SquarePants, it's like, oh okay, so square is a special kind of rectangle, because I think in Norway they're two different things. Anyways, but yeah, this square or rectangle thing has some meaning. I feel so stupid. I feel like I don't know, like I should. I'm like embarrassed actually that I like don't know that shit. Like I should know that shit. Like, oh my god. Anyways, I'm just gonna move on. I kind of want to refilm this right now, but I'm not gonna do that because, I don't know, be humble. I feel like we all have that one thing that you should know that you don't know that well. Like I remember, I feel like I was like quite old when I finally really distinguished left and right. I was like, hey, I really gotta like think about like and learn this. Maybe that's just me. Anyways, but yeah, this rectangle thing, we use it based off of the meaning we attribute to it, and the meaning is that it's a beauty product, and so we use it for our lips. We don't just use it as it is, kind of a thing. Like, this could be used for painting, it can be used for other things, but yeah, like humans do not act towards things as they are, but based on the meaning they ascribe to these things. I don't know, I just found that really interesting. But let's go back to the whole narrative thing, which kind of relates to this whole that we attribute meanings to things. So the first quote I read was, "It is the narrative that individuals construct about their lives that provide them with a sense of personal identity." And then it says in the text that basically we have the power to reform the stories or the narratives that we have. So you know you'll often see, like in a family they'll go through the same things, like siblings will go through the same things, but then it seems like people have a different story, and that isn't because necessarily the events were different. It's just that the two different people can construct a different narrative of the same event. So it could be the same things that happen to these people, these siblings, but they're gonna have a different narrative, a different story that they tell themselves. And the power about that is that you can change the story you tell yourself. So, you know, if you have a rough childhood, you can keep telling yourself that you had a rough childhood and it affected me so much, and, you know, like wah 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 basically. Or you could change the story. And this is where I like this quote. I think I've mentioned this on my channel before. There's a quote by Joe Rogan. He has a podcast, you might know who he is. He says, be the hero of your own story. So he said basically you can wake up any day and just decide, I'm gonna be the hero of my own story. And you can reframe how you live your life by thinking of yourself as like the hero in a movie that's centered around you. And so your past could just, you could narrate your past as being the stepping stones to becoming the hero that you are today in your own story, if that makes sense. So like I've had some shitty shit throughout like my childhood and adolescence or whatever, and I am so glad I went through that shit, because I wouldn't be who I am today if I didn't go through that shit. But then like I meet some people that are so negative about their past, and like their pasts are probably similar to mine, or like maybe worse, but maybe not even worse, maybe it wasn't as bad or whatever, quote unquote. But there's power in the stories you tell yourself, and I think we forget that there is, because people can have experienced the exact same event, but we can view it differently, and that's just a matter of how you tell the story. And I don't know, and that kind of goes back to, there's a quote I remember, you can control, sorry, there's fucking someone building something outside, but you can't change what happens to you. Like sometimes things will happen to you, I mean you can change to an extent things that can happen to you, but there's a quote that goes, you can't change what happens. Jesus, sorry, that was just getting really annoying, and I feel like actually the sound, I closed the window and now I feel like you're gonna be able to hear me way better, so that kind of sucks. But there's also a quote that goes, you can't change the things that happen to you, but you can change how you react to them. And that I feel like relates to the narration thing, because you can have, like I said, the exact same thing happen and you could be like, this happened but I grew from it. You look at it as a story of learning narration rather than downfall narration. You know what I mean? Or failure, like a pure failure. So I just find that really cool. And then there's also the part that I read for you guys. Yeah, humans do not act towards things as they are, but based on the meaning they ascribe to these things. So that can apply to all of our interpersonal relationships. We don't necessarily act towards people as they are, like really are. We act towards people as we think they are. And then we also, when it comes to our own actions, and this is another fairy, like the looking glass self fairy, which is basically, I actually want to make a whole other video on this, but there's this fairy that's like, I'm not who I think I am, I'm not who you think I am who you think I think, no, who I think you think I am. Basically that, how was I gonna relate this to this? This stuff can get so like metaphysical after a while, like, or abstract, I guess. Not metaphysical, abstract. But yeah, I think this is why sometimes people will feel So I guess how I would relate this to the looking glass self fairy is that we act towards people based off of how the meaning we ascribe to people, not necessarily how they actually are. And then we act based off of how we think they think we are. And so if we have attributed a meaning to someone that isn't actually like how they are, then we might distort our own view. Oh god, this is getting like too like hard to explain. Like I had all these ideas in my head and I don't know if I'm able to explain them, but it's just interesting. I feel like this is partly why people feel mistreated, is because people treat people with the meanings they ascribe to people, which might not be meanings that you feel are fairly attributed to you, if that makes sense. I don't know. Okay, this is getting so messy, but I just feel it's so cool. It's so cool to think of, and this kind of goes into postmodern philosophy, which looks at language and like how language is kind of abstract and like, oh god, how do I explain this? This is the thing with philosophy. This is kind of getting into philosophy, but it's just interesting. Everywhere we look, we have attributed meanings to things. Like, this is a water bottle. We only know how to act with this water bottle because we've attributed the meaning of it being something you drink from. But you don't necessarily have to use it for that. We just interact with it like that because that's the meaning we've attributed to it. And it's just crazy because we could technically restructure what things mean to us and the stories we tell ourselves, and like the world would be so different. Like, it's just, I don't know how to explain this. Maybe I should make another video where I've collected my thoughts a bit better, but you guys should look into like postmodern philosophy. It's kind of interesting. It kind of looks at attaching meaning to the world and like language, and how language might actually get us further away from truth sometimes, like because we assume we know things if we use language, when in reality there's nothing inherently knowable by something just because you attribute a name to it. Just because you put a meaning on it doesn't mean that it is something inherently inherent in it. Inherently inherent. I guess the main point I wanted to make here is that you can re-narrate your life, and it's something I gotta remind myself of sometimes. Like, and you can re-narrate situations. Like, actually, like, I was at the exam that I had yesterday. I had also a presentation yesterday, and I ended up cramming because like spring courses are way more work than I thought, and all of a sudden I was like, oh shit, I have an exam already. And you know, my narration, how I thought of the situation was like, you know what, this sucks. I know I'm not gonna fail. This is just gonna be a learning experience for me. So you can constantly re-narrate how you view events. Like, events aren't inherently negative or positive. There may be some aspects that are somewhat inherently negative, but like whole events aren't inherently negative or positive. They may be more prone to cause negative consequences, at least right there and then. For example, hitting someone in the face. And there's certain things that are like kind of inherently negative, but the whole situation isn't necessarily inherently negative because you could have learned something from it. I don't know. This video, I thought it was gonna be so much better than it is, but my mind, this is what happens sometimes when I'm studying philosophy, is my mind just, like, I feel like I have all these thoughts in my head. This is why I like writing papers in philosophy, because I actually get it down on paper, but I just like have all these ideas bouncing around in my head. But I just find this so genuinely interesting that I just wanted to share it with you guys. And if anything, I just wanted to share that these two quotes, I think I'll write them in the description, or I'll put them in like the beginning of the video. Even if nothing of what I just said made sense, just sit and like meditate on these quotes. It is the narrative that individuals construct about their lives that provide them with a sense of personal identity. I don't know, that is just crazy, because like you have all the power within you to create a different narrative, and there's a bunch of people that have done that. That's essentially what people do when they turn their life around. They just re-narrate their stories, and that's just like, I just get butterflies thinking about it. I just get so happy. I'm almost about to cry, like happy tears, because like that's what I live for. It's like re-narrating my life and like trying to take control of the chaos in my life. And I'm just glad that I've been on like somewhat of a good path for like quite a few years now, where I'm constantly trying to grow. Because there was a time when I just like I wasn't like that, like where I was in a really dark place, and then something just snapped in me. And ever since then I feel like I've had down times and I've had down periods. In fact, the past year has been pretty hard for certain reasons, which I may tell you guys in the future. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. I think if you're constantly trying to re-narrate things and narrate things more consciously, I think that's a really good place to start, because it doesn't require that much, in the sense that you can just sit down with a piece of paper and reflect on what you're telling yourself and how you're telling your story. And you can tell yourself, I want to try to change this because I think it'll change for the better. And then you can try to take action, or you can take some action before, but I feel like you have to kind of set out to change the narrative before you take action. I'm just thinking this kind of relates to my don't think positive, take positive action video, but this isn't about thinking positive necessarily. It's just about reframing your story so that it has more meaning. I don't know if that made sense. Yeah, and then the second quote, I'll read it again because I love quotes. Yeah, humans do not act towards things as they are, but based on the meaning they ascribe to these things. I don't know if it's just me, because I guess maybe I'm more able to think about these things when I see this quote. I'm like, that's kind of crazy. Like, humans are kind of crazy. I'm gonna read the whole quote actually. It says, in the ability to use language to name and generate symbols that have meaning and value, humans have the capacity to assign meaning to people, things, and events. Thus, humans do not act towards things as they are, but based on the meaning they ascribe to these things. This meaning is not generated based on inward reflection, but is based on the social interaction one has with others within his or her interactional field. These meanings are further modified not only by inner reflection, but by outward interaction and discourse. It's fucking cool. It's fucking sick, man. Just kidding. I'm gonna end this video here. Let me know if you guys think this is interesting. This is kind of going into more of a philosophy side rather than psychology. Even though this isn't my psychology book, sometimes they do overlap because philosophy has theories about the self and stuff like that. And it's just fucking crazy. I don't know. I hope someone watches this that can like resonate with me and finds this just as fascinating or cool as I do. I mean, maybe it's just me, but yeah, I'm gonna end it here. Follow me on social media if you guys want. My name is Mara Christina on both Instagram and Snapchat. Please leave some suggestions on what kind of videos you guys want to see from me, because I'd love to take suggestions. Also, if you guys have any constructive criticism, mind you, constructive criticism, not hate, leave a comment. Have a wonderful day. Just think about all the like meanings you attribute to things and the narratives that you have set for yourself. And yeah, have a nice day. Bye!